She's been recognised as one of the fiercest performers that will.i.am has ever encountered, drawing comparisons to iconic artists like Amy Winehouse and Freddie Mercury. Her raw, scratched and bruised vocal style, along with her unapologetic honesty and ability to convey her truth through music, make her uniquely compelling. Today, I am super excited to be speaking with Beth Morris. How are you today, Beth?
Hi, Julie. Oh my God, that was so awkward. I'm very good, thank you. But like someone, so basically when you have like something about yourself, I always get someone else to write it because it's so embarrassing. Like I'd never write that, or you know what I mean? So I was sat there like, oh, this is horrendous.
Writing your own intro is a nightmare. It's like, hey, I'm kind of a big deal,
Isn't
but I'm not as well. I'm really nice. I'm really
Yeah, I'm really just normal. And actually, yeah, exactly. It's so like to sell yourself, especially with what everything we'll talk about, but when you're like insecure, have insecurities and like feel like low self-esteem, then to like try and boost yourself up, it's like, oh gosh.
Well, let me do it
it's
instead.
lovely to be here, and thank you for having me.
It looks like you're in a beautiful location. I believe you're on the set of Mamma Mia right now.
I am.
And you're just about to go off and sing. For those of you that can't see this because they're listening, there is a beautiful background with, is that a fire going on?
Do you know what? I've got quite, but I can't actually see. I just, basically, you've got this lovely podcast app that allows you to have AI backgrounds. Instead of my boring lounge, you've got like, we're in the Mediterranean.
Yeah,
we've got a bush.
Don't ruin the illusion.
Sorry, no, I am. It's sunny here in sunny Spain. We've got
yeah, hola. I love it.
We've got like some terracotta bricks. It's beautiful.
It is, man. Living the dream. You'll be able to tell people this morning you're in Spain on the podcast. That sounds so Hollywood.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For the next hour, I am.
Yeah, you deserve it.
I feel great being here. I feel like I'm meant to be here.
Well, that brings us on to our first question. And it's my favourite question because I never know where it's going to end up. And that is, how did you become Beth Morris?
This is what a question is that?
I know. It's very open, isn't it?
Isn't it? You could go any place with that. So I guess I was born through my mother. I
so hoped you'd start there.
That's the start, isn't it? So I guess she created me. Thank you, Mum and Dad. How did I become better? It's such an interesting question because, I mean, that is who I am. That was who I was born. And then growing up, that was who I was. And then I actually changed my name when I was performing to Luna LePage. So that's who I was for a while. Now looking back, I'm pretty sure it's to run away because I really didn't like myself very much. So I became Luna LePage, and I was a bit of a wild girl. So she was very crazy and, taking lots of naughty things and
was
doing
that
lots
like an
of
alter
things.
ego?
It was, yeah. It was alter ego, but she was very angry. Looking back, she was very angry and very
bit like Beyonce's Sasha Fierce type thing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, more angry than fierce, more furious than fierce. Sasha furious.
Well, I'm glad she's not here today. She'll be smashing up terracotta pots in Spain.
Exactly. I remember my friends, because I always try, like I'm just a normal person, I always try to be as kind as possible. And I remember some of my friends coming to watch the show and they were horrified and they were like, Beth, like, where have you gone? They were like, this isn't you.
Are you okay, Beth?
Yeah, and they were like, are you okay? And then I remember them inviting them to another show and they were like, is it going to be as angry as last one? Do you know what? I didn't realise I was coming across that way. But Luna Furious was like, yeah.
It's not nothing like a bit of reflection from your friends, is there?
No, exactly. And honesty, which is really important. But so that was my little journey. And then I went on a few years ago. I went on a show called The Voice, and they messed up. So I went in as Luna LePage, and they, on the day of the filming for the when they turn around or not, the blind auditions, they had got my name wrong, and they were calling it was Beth Morris, and I was like, well, it's not my name. I'm Luna LePage. And so then that was sort of the start of the journey of Beth Morris as a musician and as a singer, songwriter.
That's giving me goosebumps. That almost feels very serendipitous.
Yeah. It was. And if I just rewind a few years later, after what happened there, I then came back, jumped back on the saddle and found a new band. And it was my first show back after all of that stuff, which we can talk about if you want to, but what happened on the show. And it was my first time back, and I was feeling a lot of trauma. So we were going back out as Luna the Page, and again I was hiding behind this umbrella. And when we got on stage, so it's at a festival, Penfest, my name on bright lights, massive, Beth Morris. So that was it. It was like, okay, I hear you, angels, and that was it. So there's been
the
very
universe is saying no.
100%. They were like, no, she's out, I'm afraid. So you've got to learn to like yourself. And that was basically what it was. I really hated myself, and I didn't want to be me. But
well, let's take a little step back, because I think now you've got people intrigued about the whole voice journey, and we can talk about that if it's okay with you to do that.
Of course, yeah.
When did you realise, or when did you fall in love, or when did you start your relationship, your love affair with singing?
Oh, that's such a lovely question. Do you know what I realised recently, Johnny? That music is the love of my life. It's the one thing that it runs through my body. It's through my veins, and it's just, since the moment I can honestly speak, I realized singing was for me, and I almost just knew that's what I was meant to do here. And I remember, like, from very, very young, being obsessed with Michael Jackson, and I'd put on repeat "Heal the World" by Michael Jackson, and I'd sit
Love
there.
Michael Jackson.
Oh, me too. And so my love affair with music was from the moment I could talk, really. And it's always been my first love. And, I went on a date recently, and the guy said to me, I was dating, he said to me, I've realized that I will always come second to music. And I was like, that's really well done for realizing that so quick. Yeah, you're right.
Man, you could have said anything. You're like, good, yep, you understand.
No, I was like, no, do you know what? I could lie here, but no, you're right. No, you could say that didn't last long after that.
I think you might have been expecting a no, of
I think
course
I
not.
scared him off, but
There's that fierce coming out again.
Yeah, well, my mum and sister, they always say to me, Beth, you're too honest. You have to, like, filter what you say to me, because I feel like being honest is the best policy always, but sometimes you've got to be careful, because I should have probably said,
I suppose there's a way of delivering honesty, but I agree with you. At the end of the day, if you're not honest, then you're never really going to be aligning with what's true. You're always going to be selling a pretend version of yourself, which is a lot of pressure and actually can lead to quite a lot of mental health struggles, I think.
Oh, 100%. And also, just again, this is like, we could talk for hours on this, but then the layers of why we're not honest, and the layers of what we're protecting, why we're protecting it, what we're afraid of being rejected, or we're afraid of whatever our fears are. And it's actually about, for me, my biggest, and must be for you too, Johnny, but actually just sitting with yourself and really trying to understand yourself, and what are those fears? What are those struggles? Where have they come from? Get to the core of it. Because actually, for a lot of us, even if it was a small thing that happened to us or a big thing, it actually controls our whole life, and we have no idea. So, but honesty.
One of the greatest fears of any human being is the things they don't want to be true, but the little bit know are. And I've got to a point in my life now where I've kind of trained myself, and I think it's becoming autonomous behaviour now, where I have this sort of playful relationship with the universe. So when I face a truth that I don't want to face, maybe I'm being a bit insecure about something and I don't want to be insecure. I want to be a tough bloke, right? But I'm having trouble with insecurity, and I face the insecurity. I used to get really angry at myself and disappointed with myself and say, oh, stupid Johnny, why are you doing that? You're such this, you're such that. Now I just laugh and I say to myself, there it is. There's what I need to know. There's what I need to know. And then it's like, what are we going to do with this? So it's like, quite often you just put a pin in it and come back to it later. But
That's
I just
beautiful.
think I think the truth is life. That is it. Like, that life is always reflecting the truth back to you. And we keep dodging it and we keep swerving it and moving around it, but it's always going to be there. And I think the sooner you can get to it, and I get it. There are things about life you don't want to be true. There are things about yourself, about other people that you don't want to be true. I understand that, and I totally resonate with that. And there's been times where I felt that, and I will feel it again. But it is not the truth.
No.
So let's get with the truth and let's see where we are. And I think sometimes people are afraid because the truth might mean that they don't feel the way they want to feel about their partner, or they don't feel how they want to feel about their career. And that's scary because big decisions come with it. And I love the fact that you opened with the love of your life is singing, and that you are telling these blokes, because it's better for him to find out on the date than it is 2 years down the line on on the wedding day or whatever.
Exactly. Well, no, exactly. And I love what you said there. And it's so beautiful. And, the thing is, it's like, for all of us, we all live, I believe, quite deluded lives, all of us, because we're brought up with this. We are conditioned from young, from whatever we've been through, then through our lives. We take on these false beliefs that we are. And for a lot of us, it brings us down. And it's like you're saying about the truth. And I always, for some reason, I always bring house analogies in. But if we are like a house, then, the boiler might be packing up. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to believe it. We haven't got the money for it. And we're just going to pretend. We're going to just shut the door and pretend it's not there. But it is going to break. And then we're going to be in trouble. We have no hot water. And we're going to, you know what I mean? So then we have to deal with it. And we have to call the plumber out and have to find the money. And it's all, but it's all right because it's part of us. It's just part of life. It's part of just accepting, learning, and actually, making the house hotter, warmer, more cost effective. So it's quite a stupid analogy, the boiler.
No, it's not, because the reason why that's a brilliant analogy is because most people wait until the boiler breaks. And then they have to face it. They have to do something about it. And that's the reason why that is so great, because you get lots of warning signs in life and you can ignore them. You can ignore the sound that the boiler's making. You can ignore the occasional time when the hot water's not on and you don't know why. But one day when it completely breaks and you have to deal with it. And that's what I mean about the truth. The truth will keep reflecting itself until you have to face it. One day it's like it's all come in and it's like, okay, can't pretend anymore. This is happening.
Yeah. And for some, it's just the boiler breaking. For some, it's the whole house falling down. You know what I mean? And for some, that house might fall down many times, and we're still not learning. We can all relate to that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, actually, we're all in this together. We all go through different experiences, but we have the same emotions. We're going to go through same but different. And we have to really look at our house, and also we have to allow people who we trust to help with our house as well, and that's another lesson I've learned. So
can't do it alone. So your first love affair, the love of your life, is music, and that took you on to The Voice, which is a show here in the UK.
Yes, it did take me onto The Voice, and the only reason I talk about it is because of the outcome of it and what happened on the show. Basically, I had been to rehab the year before, so I had quite a nasty drug habit. And a year later, this opportunity came forward. And at the time, I was wild Luna the Page as an artist who didn't do The Voice, or whatever delusion I was living at that time. But anyway, it came up. And actually, I missed my auditions because I was full of self-loathing, self-fear. I didn't realize it at the time. So I'd go on sort of drinking and other thing benders, and then I'd miss the auditions. Anyway, this went on for a while, and then I rang them up every time and made up an excuse. Sorry, The Voice, if anyone ever watches this, because it's it's not who I am today. And then on the last audition, I missed it again because I was self-sabotaging, Johnny. So every time a good thing would come in my life, I'd self-sabotage it. Everything. It took me years to sort of, unravel this stuff. And then I rang them up again for the same excuse of, oh, my car's tire, how many tires have I lost this time? This is the fourth tire. It's gone. I can't get in again. And they were so lovely. They were such a beautiful production. They said to me, Beth, we're so sorry to hear that, but this is the last day. However, we'd love you to audition. And if you can get here, we're here till 10, please come. And I remember I was in my ex's car, and he had this old BMW convertible, and I was driving. The sun was down. The sun was out. The sun was shining. The hood was down. And I remember something in me went, Beth, turn around and you go. And I just went, zoop. And I remember I was in Windsor and I turned around and I just went to the audition. And then the rest was history. But from that show, kind of long story short, got through a few levels and then got to the finals, the live finals. And I still was dipping in and out of drug addiction. So although I'd spend weeks off of it, in my head that was cured because I was spending days and days on it. You know what I mean? So I look back now and go, no, I still had, it wasn't even the addiction. I still had a lot of pain inside of me. That was the problem. And then you get thrown on live TV, you get thrown on millions of people watching you and having comments about you when you've got no self-esteem whatsoever. And I couldn't cope, Johnny, I couldn't cope. So then I went to my best friend, my safety blanket, which was drugs. And although I did it outside of the show, I never did it near the show because it was a year-long production. So you'd have months of just living normal life. So this was in my normal life. Would I do it? But I'd signed a contract saying I wasn't to do it. And anyway, someone close to me sold a story to the papers, to the Sun, 3 days before the live finals. And I had to leave the show, but it was on the front page of the Sun newspaper. And no one knew I had an addiction or about my past. And it was everything. And the story that had come out originally was even worse. So I had to cut a deal with them basically and say, look, if I confess on the papers, will you cut all these lies out? Because it was a really horrible story. And they agreed. So then I had to do this, 25-year-old had to do this confession about how sorry I was. I'm a drug addict and ashamed. And it was awful. And the thing was, I carried so much shame from my childhood. And then I was being publicly shamed by 8 million people. And I was, couldn't go into my hometown for 3 years. And it was a really hard time in my life. It was, at that time, it was a really challenging time, but one of the best things to ever happen to me in my life because I changed.
I just can't imagine most people struggle with their mental health struggles and the way that they deal with it. That struggle alone is so debilitating, but to do it in public like that and to have all of these unwanted and unnecessary and probably untrue opinions about you, people that don't know you, don't understand you, not even trying to understand you. I just can't imagine how that must have been. That must have been, I feel it's a braver thing to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I suspect you're probably lucky to still be here after something like that.
Well, you know what? It was a challenging time, but to be honest, through my addiction days, they were so awful that I am so lucky to be alive from them. Truly, I almost lost my life, a few times. And so then to be honest, at the time, I was just like, you know what it's like, Johnny. Like I know your story. I've watched you and I've listened to you, and I only know a little bit, but you're such a beautiful soul, and you share your story so beautifully and such courage and so eloquently that you understand this, that when you go through so much, that this was almost like I crawled for a bit, and then I just had to keep going. I just had to, and because I got sober very quickly after that. Thank God. I think had I not got sober, it'd be a different thing. And I just had to deal with it. And if anything, now I have to remember it because it's a while back now, but looking back, I had to be honest with myself. Like we're saying, that broken boiler was now public knowledge. 8 million people reading it on Easter Sunday. So
what an analogy.
How mad. It was this time a few years ago, exactly almost to the day, where like reading about a broken boiler. And I had nothing but to go, wow. Shit, but it's better at what can I do? Like I couldn't lie. I had to be honest. And from that moment, something shifted in me where I was like, well, I've got nothing left to hide. Let's get well now. Let's sort yourself out. And I did.
I call that a wet fish slap in the face moment. And it's that opportunity to align with the truth again. It's like, are you going to own up to all of the things that you've been shaming away? Because here's the thing, in most cases, it cannot be any worse than you think it's going to be. And that's the fear, isn't it? The fear isn't something's happened. The fear is something might happen or will happen or about to happen. And that's the fear, isn't it? That's the anxiety. So you aligned with the truth. And look at you now. I mean, you look great. You look like you've come through that. I mean, I don't know what you looked like back then, but I suppose you must have been struggling. Usually we wear it on our face quite well, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you're so right. Here's the God.
No, what they say now, I think some of the days where I was having the most struggles or I was really hungover around my alcohol consumption, I would shower, I would dress as impeccably. It was like the more well presented I was, the worse I felt inside most of the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, me too. I used to dress really wild and crazy, and it was all just sometimes, we dress overtly because we're so insecure, or we hide in black because we're so insecure, whatever it is. But it's just it's actually the inside stuff that is, we don't realize, do we? Until we have to deal with it, or we're forced. And in a way, I'm so grateful for, and I know you've shared this with me, and I feel the same too. I'm so grateful for the addiction, because it forced me to look at myself. It forced me to. I had nowhere to run. I was at death's door, and I was that. There was no, there was one which was ending my life, or there was dealing with my life. And, bit by bit, you start shining that torch inside. And like you say, the most scary bit is the fear itself. Actually, shining a light in it. We've already done it. We've been through it. So we just need to very kindly pick it out of ourselves, sweep the house out, and even if it's just lighting a candle and we've got no electric and it's dripping wet and it's horrible inside, if you just light a candle, that is the start, and that's okay. Life is a journey, and there is no end game. There isn't. And so there's no speed. There's no need to be so speedy in recovery. Not just recovering from addictions, but in recovery from life, whatever we've been through. It's actually just lighting that candle is the beginning and the start. And as long as you just take one step forward each day, your life can change dramatically in a short amount of time.
I also feel that those situations, they present you with a set of emotions. And I really do believe that emotions are like messages from our soul. And our soul's trying to tell us something, and we're not listening, and we're not listening, and we're not listening. So it intensifies. A bit like a demanding toddler. If you don't listen to a toddler, they don't give up.
That's so true.
They just escalate and escalate and escalate until you go, what?
That's so true. I love that. That's so true, isn't it? It's just, keeps going, because it's not going to stop.
Until it gets to a point, and obviously your point was the national newspapers, which, and I can't imagine. I mean, something I wanted to pick up upon, you mentioned self-sabotage earlier on, and I just got a question around that, and that is, do you think it was self-sabotage? Do you think it was a deliberate attempt to sabotage yourself? Or do you think it was you seeking your only known way of comfort at the time?
It's a really good question. And I would say it's both.
Right.
I'd say absolutely. It was a safety mechanism. It was like a little baby blanket, and also self-sabotage as well, in terms of I just would always destruct. I did it with everything in my life, because deep down, what I didn't realize was how much but I have to be honest, because it's not like this today, but how much I hated myself. And so any good opportunity that came into my life, I would push it away.
Yeah, that makes sense. You don't deserve it. You don't feel like you deserve it. You feel like you're going to mess it up. Somebody else is better than you. They should get it. All that sort of stuff.
But then, exactly. But then flipping it is also fear of success, fear of failure. I'd also struggled with quite bad body dysmorphia, because I had eating disorders growing up. So I looked on myself, and I'd have this self-hatred for what I looked like. And so then there's the fear of what I look like. And it's fear-based, isn't it? So it is, you put the blanket on, and like you said this very beautifully in your documentary, which you said that, actually alcohol saved my life. It's such a contradictory thing to say, isn't it? But it's because it was damaging my life, but it also saved my life. That's what you said. And I felt exactly the same.
It prolonged my life. It allowed me to stay around long enough for me to be brave enough to lean into the fear that was necessary in order to be courageous and face what was going on.
Yeah.
And alcohol prolonged it, and it's just like life. It's messy, it's unpredictable, it's not ideal. Life doesn't present you with the ideal solution very often. You have to work it out, and it sort of harkens to what you were just saying just now. And it's like you just find a way through. And life is unpredictable, messy, and you just gotta keep fighting. You got to turn on that candle, see the room, and go, okay, I'll take one step. Oh, it's wet, it's dark, it's horrible, but it's a step forward.
It's exactly it, isn't it? And it is like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just got to step forward.
I think quite a lot of the time people are waiting for the ideal scenario, the ideal thing. And life is you're very lucky if that happens, I think. I had an experience recently. I climbed Kilimanjaro, and I went to Africa.
Did
you? Stand by. I went to Africa to get to the top of Kilimanjaro. And the truth is, I failed. I didn't get to the top of Kilimanjaro. And I've said that to people, and people go, "Oh, Johnny, but you didn't fail." And I said, "No, I did fail. And please let me have my failure, because it was one of the greatest lessons that I've learned, where I had to lean into my fear. I had altitude sickness, and I had my heart beating in my chest. I could actually see my heart beating. I had a banging headache. I had really, really bad projectile vomiting. And I was climbing up this mountain, and I was quite willing to keep going instead of accepting that I couldn't do it. And I thought to myself, I got to a point where I had to face it and say to myself, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then I had to go back down. That to me was the worst thing that could happen. Way worse than going up on the mountain and suffering. I was okay to do that. I've suffered before. I can do that. And the reason why it was such a great lesson was because there are so many things I have to do in my life in order to progress my career to where I want it to be, where I have to be brave and I have to face very real, very crippling fears. And I had been avoiding those things because I feared failing so badly that if I didn't try, I didn't have to fail. And what that failure taught me was, okay, you didn't get to the top of Kilimanjaro. So I'm sat in my tent, middle of the night, and I'm like, am I going to cry? No, I started laughing because it was so ridiculous. I just realized what I was doing. It was like that wet fish slap in the face moment. And I was like, what was I thinking? Like, why was I thinking I was going to climb this mountain? I wasn't going to do it. And it's like, nothing happened. The world didn't come to an end. Just like when I climbed the 2 mountains before with altitude sickness, I would herald myself, oh yes, I'm big and brave. I climbed this mountain with altitude sickness. And people go, oh, good for you. And I'm like, right, is that it? I really suffered though. Yep, I know. Yep, you said that. Okay. And then this time I'm like, oh, well, I didn't get to the top. And I'm like, oh, well, you tried. Nobody cares.
No.
Like, nobody
so
cares.
True.
And there's this saying that the bad news is nobody cares. The good news is nobody cares. And
Yeah, I
it's like,
love that.
So just fail. Just fail.
Yeah.
Keep trying. Keep failing. Because one day, if you don't quit, if you don't give up on yourself, you will get there.
Yeah, you're so right. That's so beautiful. And people who succeed fail a million times, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. And so actually you learnt far more from that experience than had you climbed the top.
Yeah,
There'd been nothing at the top, just a bit of gratification.
Well, to be fair, it did help seeing everyone who did get to the top come back down again broken.
Yeah, did it?
I'm okay to walk today. How are you feeling?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not a failure at all. Maybe a very, very smart man.
Define failure.
Yeah, exactly. He says
like
with his nicely fresh coffee, feet up.
Oh, it was an
Exactly.
experience.
Wow.
But it was a learning curve, man. It was a learning curve. I mean, I'm curious. So one of the questions I always ask is what's the most challenging and emotionally painful thing you've experienced in your life, and what did you learn from it? Is that it, do you think? Is your experience on The Voice? Do you think it was...
Such a good question, and there's so many layers to that, but it was one of. But for me, everything it brought up, the pain, the shame, the embarrassment, already lived within me. It was already there. And that was sort of, fertilized. That was like magnified, all of it sort of shone out. But, there was there's been a few times in my life through my addiction days there were certain times from that were really horrible. There's certain things in my childhood that were really horrible. So, there's many layers to it. And I feel like, so there's been a few times that I could share, but that certainly incorporated all the emotions that live within me. And it certainly was, to be honest, I just got on and got on with it after that happened. And I just carried on and just never gave up, never stopped. But it's only been in recent years have I realized the trauma of it, to be honest. And have I sat and had a good old cry about it all, because it was, I think, just to be shamed en masse and to be horrible, vile comments from people and, judgment and just, tearing, it was definitely up there. It was definitely up there, but always flip it around. And it was incredibly, I learned, it saved my life in many ways. It's made me who I am today. I've understood that I've learned so many lessons from it all, from so many things, but from that experience, and just understanding that judgment is judging ourselves. So everybody who judges me, they're judging themselves and they're not dealing with their own little house. Same as you, and same with people listening at home. It's like our biggest worry, or I think most of human beings worry is what other people think, if we're truly honest with ourselves. And I certainly feel that way sometimes. But if we so that's one side of it, but also on the other side, it's actually if someone's judging us or has any thought about us that doesn't truly care about us with that unconditional love, it's them just judging themselves. I love this saying, 1 finger pointed at you, 3 back at myself. So now...
Wow, never heard that before.
Have you not?
No, that's lovely.
And it's beautiful. So for me, it's like, honestly, when I'm sat there going, oh, that person should, I have to go, Beth. Let's look at the 3 things you're concerning yourself about with yourself, and I have to get really honest. And it's not nice because you have to be really honest and go, actually, this anger lies within me. This jealousy, this envy lies within me. And then I have to do something about it.
Very often when I'm working with clients that have imposter syndrome, my first port of call is, are you good enough for this? It's just to shine a light on it. Let's look at it. That's because there might be some more training. There might be some more time. There might be very often it's not that. But that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Is actually your imposter syndrome is right.
Wow. I love that.
That's the worst case scenario. And very often we can look into that and find there's not really much evidence that your imposter syndrome is right. Actually, what's going on is that I feel an imposter because for the first time in my life, I feel like this is going to happen and I'm terrified. And that imposter syndrome is an uncomfortable feeling that comes when you step out of your comfort zone. It's very similar to when we go to the gym, right? We go to the gym and we work out and we step out of our comfort zone a little bit in that session, and the next day we've got muscle ache, and it's the same thing. Maybe all of a sudden you're surrounded by your peers. Maybe there's people in the industry that you're in that you really admire, that you think, oh my gosh, they're an incredible singer. And then all of a sudden you're singing on the same card as them. I mean, that's going to blow anyone's mind.
Oh, yeah,
that's going to give you imposter syndrome. And quite frankly, I've always said this to every client I've ever had, is that when they get imposter syndrome, I say congratulations. Because every single successful person I've ever met has had imposter syndrome. So if you've got it, that must mean you're really close.
Oh, I love that.
Well, you don't see the person sitting around the house doing nothing, wondering if they're doing it right, do you?
No, you don't. It's true.
So therefore,
you're
doing something. You're doing something. You're stretching. You're moving out of your comfort zone, and there is growing pains, and that's what you're feeling. So your real big lesson there was your relationship with judgment, potentially your relationship with rejection, because that brings me on to the next question: is what emotion do you tend to avoid or dislike having the most? I wonder if it is rejection, but I'm going to let you answer because otherwise it would be really pointless. You might as well not be here if I just answer all your questions for you. So.
No, I think you're so right. Please do. I think it's great. I love it. I could just sit here. I can ask you the questions. I'd love it. We'll have to do a swap where I can interview you. But I'd say rejection and anger. Because what I've only realised very recently is how much I don't like feeling angry. So obviously it'd come out with old Luna, but I didn't know. But whenever anger comes up, I'll try anything to suppress it. I really don't like feeling angry. And actually that's so detrimental because, all of us actually, I'd say, we harbour so much emotion within ourselves and we suppress it. We're told to be good boys, good girls, and we hold it within ourselves. But the problem is, where does the energy of that go? Where does it go in our system? If we're not dealing with it and we're feeling it in our bodies, in our beings, where is it going? And the longer this energy is remaining within our system, the longer things will come in or dis-ease within the body, albeit psychological addictions, phobias, mental health issues or physical ailments like diabetes or injuries. Everything actually is, trapped energy within the system. So it's actually we should be promoting children sharing their emotions, So for me, anger and also absolute rejection, that honestly in a time of my life, not that long ago, a few years ago, rejection would make me feel suicidal, if I'm being really honest. I was in so much fear in my life. Even now with my business, with music and with pranic healing therapy, even when I'm, reaching out or doing whatever I'm doing with my marketing or whatever I'm doing, I still have that, oh, don't reject me, but I do it. Whereas before I was like, no, absolutely no way am I even going to put myself out there because if I'm rejected, that's it, can't cope.
I think that's a very human trait, though. Rejection comes from almost a primal place where back a long time ago, we were only really safe as a human race if we stayed together, right? Because there were lots more formidable threats. We would look around and we would see where rejection was because it would keep us safe within the group. The last thing you ever wanted, the biggest fear you could have, was being rejected from the group because then you're on your own. Then what? I think in some regards, it's a survival emotion.
Yeah.
It's there to give us a message. It's just unfortunately it probably doesn't translate quite as well as it used to
Yeah.
when we
I think
needed
you're
it. You
right.
know?
No, I
But I
think you're
mean,
right.
I'm curious about that anger. So when you say you suppress it, do you think it goes inwards or outwards? And the reason I ask that is because if, from what I've observed, when it goes inwards, it starts to bring anxiety and depression like symptoms. And when it goes outwards, it looks like it turns into rage. So it's almost like that bottling up of that anger until somebody nicks your parking space at a supermarket and you're ready to kill them. And it's like,
Mm.
what's happened? So which way do you think it goes for you? Or does it go somewhere else?
Inward for
Inward.
sure. But I've learned recently there's some simple sort of tools and techniques to healthily release it. So especially through meditation, actually. But because I didn't realize how much anger I had in me, but what I would use with the anger was to self-destruct myself. So, eating disorders or addictions or whatever it be, or harming myself. So I used to, instead of dealing with the emotion, I would harm myself to try and alleviate my pain or the suffering I felt within myself, which again, I realized as I was healing, I had to sit down and really reflect on myself. And then I've sort of gained these understandings as I've sort of gone down my path. But yeah, I would suppress it. So then it would induce anxiety, exactly, and fear and stress and all sorts of things. And
And imagine you were just relentlessly on high alert, right?
I was, I mean, I feel like I suffered with high anxiety since little. So I was very used to running on that fear energy, and I had crippling anxiety growing up, and I'd hide that too, to my best ability. I'm sure I probably wasn't that good at hiding it, but oh my gosh. So yeah, there was as a multitude of emotions going on inside as I was growing up, and it's just understanding how to eradicate them from my system, and then how to look at them and sort of, release them safely.
You're an incredible human. You've been through, I
You
mean, you've
are.
had the ultimate exposure therapy to judgment and rejection that I think anyone could ever have, to be completely honest. And you're still here to tell the story. So the wisdom you must have from that must be just, well, no words really. Must be quite incredible.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I've definitely learned lessons, and I'm very grateful for the lessons I've learned. And, the more I learn in this life, or honestly, I just feel more like a baby. The more you know, the less you know. Seriously,
Wow.
like, do you feel that sometimes where I feel like, yeah, the more you go on your journey, the more you sort of just realize how we're
I
just
had
always
this.
learning.
I had this observation once, right? I have the best father-in-law ever, right? And whenever I go to him and ask him for advice, he's in his 70s. So I'm like, he knows stuff. He's been around long enough and he's had so many successes with different things. So I go to him and I ask his advice on something that I'm thinking about doing, or a project or a direction that I'm trying to take the business. And then he says, do you know, John, I just don't know. And I'm like, 70 years old and you don't know anything. And then I remember once watching my then 7-year-old. So I've got a 70-year-old granddad and I've got a 7-year-old kid. 7-year-old knows everything.
Oh, yes.
Granddad knows nothing. So I'm like, oh, life's just about learning. You don't know anything.
It's
As
so
it is.
true. Honestly, if you'd asked me a few years ago, I'd think I had much more wisdom and knowledge than I realise I do now. Honestly, because you sort of you're stripping down, aren't you? And you're learning more and
Yeah.
learning more and learning more. And yeah, life is a mad place, and that's why I love though, because then we're all the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then we can't judge each other, although it's our innate nature to judge. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here like the next Messiah at all. I'm just learning. I'm just out here learning and growing and sharing what little knowledge I have with people who are going through what I've gone through in my life. And you do the same thing, Johnny. You do amazing work. And may I ask you a question?
Of course.
Can I ask you what your not fear, the emotion you really don't like expressing or don't like? What was the question you asked me? What emotion?
What emotion do you tend to avoid or dislike having the most?
Can I ask you that question?
I think it probably is rejection for me as well.
Is it?
Just because I was drip fed rejection my whole life. So it was like being confirmed to me for such a long time. I was never good enough. I was never good enough at home. I was getting beaten by my father all of the time and told I was worthless. And at school, I was dyslexic and undernourished. So I was never good at sport, never good at academic stuff. And then out in the world as a mixed race guy, a kid around the 80s, you know, you were never really accepted by black people or white people. So I was just meeting rejection in every aspect of my life. And what that means is that in everything I've ever done, and again, I think it plays into the recent lesson of failing, is I've never wanted to fail because I've constantly tried through early years to prove myself to somebody, not realizing that it was myself. And actually, the greatest gift in that is that I was able, whilst writing my book, to realize and actually see, I created these little stories around myself for such a long time. And then I just realized that they were all bollocks. They were just little narratives because here's the thing, I didn't want to accept the truth about myself. So I created stories that I could accept, but they wasn't true. And then life kept reflecting them back to me and I kept ignoring them until one by one, each card fell. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, you get this opportunity now to accept the truth, or you can start propping the cards back up and accepting the lies again. And for me, it's just like, sometimes you do fail and it's okay to fail as long as you get back up again and you try again and you try just one more time. And then one of those times it will work. Or it will go a direction that you never expected, but it's equally as good. Stop trying to predict life. We're not fortune tellers.
Yeah, it's so true. And did you find, because like I know a little bit about your story, and it's like, it's such a harrowing story, but honestly, and I don't say this lightly, but I felt the moment that when we had our little chat recently on a call, and I just thought you are just such a beautiful soul and you do such good work and you've got such a special energy about you. And I think, you know, through everything you've been through, because you've done, you know, you've honored yourself and really started looking at yourself. And like you say, thank goodness for the addiction to help you do that, that you, because of what you've been through, look how much wisdom that you have. It's look what you're doing because of it. And look what beautiful soul you are. And so like anyone out there who's struggling with anything in their life, we have to remember that, don't we? Is that actually these struggles are for us, not against us. They are our tests in life to give, you know, help us be more compassionate, more resilient, kinder, sharing, caring, helping. And that's ultimately what we're here to do, is to then use what we've been through to help others. And you're such a beautiful example of that. It's amazing. And also because of the stories that those stories were so embedded on you, you know, to really to eradicate them from you. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. That's something I practice. Say thank you when someone, I think that's a compliment. It feels like one.
It's a big compliment.
Yeah, so thank you. But I think that our events in our life shape us. And one of the things that we do, right or wrong, is we get very attached to the events in our lives. And one of the things I had to look back on is recognizing the emotional imprint of each of those events, how it made me feel. So it wasn't about me being not good enough for my father. It wasn't about me being not good enough for school. It wasn't about me not being good enough as a mixed race guy out in the world. It was about my relationship with the emotion of rejection, the narrative, the meaning that I'd given that word and what it meant, and that familiarity that creeps in. Oh, here we go again. Before I've even rejected, I've decided what's going to happen and what it means. And so for me, it was about really building a new relationship with rejection. Now, that doesn't mean that it goes away. I still have a hypersensitivity to it. Every time I put my book forward for publishing or the podcast numbers aren't what I hoped, I feel rejected. And I go, okay. And I let it in because you can't stop it. And then I go, okay, so now you've let that emotion come. Like I applied for a TED Talk not a while ago. And I got an email the other day and it said, you've not been accepted for the TED Talk. And I felt that instant rejection. So the first thing I did was, okay, there it is. You expected this. This is the rejection. And I just sat with it for a bit and I didn't tell anybody. I didn't react. I didn't do anything. I just distracted myself for a little bit and allowed the emotions to come in. And then when I calmed down, when my nervous system settled and I could feel it settled, I go, okay, what does this mean? Well, it means that you didn't get in. Try again. That's it.
You know, as you were saying that, all I could think was, I didn't climb to the top of Kilimanjaro this time.
No.
But you'll get there.
Oh, I'm not doing it again.
Oh my God, no, but you'll get the TED Talk. My God, you
Yeah.
so will. I believe that very strongly.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, but somehow we've moved over to me. You're very good
No,
at
I just
this.
wanted to ask you. It was intrigued me to hear, what your emotion
Well,
was.
I think that's probably why we had such a resonance when we spoke, because I think that although our stories are different, we've experienced, and this is the point I'm making, is even though the events in our life are different, we've had similar emotional imprints over our life. And I think that we recognize that in each other. And
Yeah.
that's why I can empathize so deeply with how it must have been how it must have felt to have experienced rejection on such a level. I mean, I can't imagine anything worse for me, that must have been really difficult. So to see you sat here looking so well and being able to share this wisdom about breaking down, I just never met anyone quite as strong as that. It's quite amazing.
Oh, well, thank you I'm the same as you. I've struggled to thank you. I'll just leave it there because I really don't like.
Right back at you.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, we're just here. At the time it was hard. It was horrible. But it's not like that today. And because of that experience, you get bitter or better. Do you know what I mean? And I'd say it's true though, isn't it? And
Right.
I can either sit there and cry, and I needed to cry, and that's really important. But then we have to get up and we have to get on. And like you say, the only difference between failure and success is the failure stops. Just don't stop. And, for me with addiction, or anyone struggling with anything, just go for it and just start today. Like I was listening to your, documentary on addiction, and you were like, right, I had my ceremony with my alcohol. And then after that was that. And it's like, just start, because I tell you what, if we start this inner work, or, whether it's anxiety or we're feeling angry or we're struggling with health issues or addiction or much more severe, and we feel desperately depressed and can't cope and can't move on, there's always help out there, and there's always a better day. So like, if you just start the work, if you just put down the bottle, or you just sit and try to do a meditation, or you just talk to someone, or you go for that walk outside, if you just start, my gosh, think where you're going to be in a year, and think where you're going to be in 2 years and 3 years, and stop the suffering and struggling now and really learn to live a good life, And I know it's not that easy for everyone because people are going through really tough times, but you can make a change and you can live a good life.
I think it's about finding that way forward. Getting that help might feel really overwhelming. And if something's overwhelming, then it's too big. So what is the smaller thing? Well, the smaller thing is to make a phone call to the person who's going to help and see what the lay of the land. Sometimes we find ourselves in a world now where it's not easy to get help. The NHS do their absolute best and they're an incredible organisation, but they can't help everybody all the time. And when you reach out to them, they're overwhelmed too. So what do you do? Well, there are so many different organizations out there that give low-cost counseling, low-cost advice. There are so many different podcasts and books and all sorts of places that you can go where you can get a little bit of help to help you through the troubles that you're having. So I think you're right. It's just start, right? It's just find a way to start, find a starting point. And it doesn't have to be perfect. That perfectionism in us is going to go, oh, no, it needs to be the perfect start. No, it doesn't. It just needs to be a start. And it can be exactly as you described. It can be a wet, dripping wet, horrible room with no electric, as long as you can just lighting that candle with deciding, okay, I'm gonna ring this person on Tuesday.
Yeah. Or I'm going to get dressed today and leave the house, or I'm going to have a wash. It could just be that simple, couldn't it?
It could be. You're right. You're absolutely right. It could be today I'm going to get out of bed. There's definitely been times in my life where I haven't done that. I haven't got out of bed all day.
Me too.
And I've sat in bed eating chocolate, watching. Why is it we go for the most depressing of programs? I remember watching a whole box set of Sopranos once when I was depressed. It's like, this is not helping.
Oh no, I know. I did that when I wasn't very well. I felt so low, so I decided to watch the whole series of Top Boy, which is so brutal. And I remember just feeling like this. It's so awful. So yeah, I know. God, we self-indulge, so don't we, as human beings? We all do it.
I do it all the time. If I have like a really bad day, it's like, now I'm going to go on social media and look at all the people that are better than me. It's like,
I do.
Why am I doing that?
I know. And I give myself a little limit, like, okay, look, we can wallow in this for a bit.
That's enough self-abuse now.
Yeah, exactly. Or feel like the world's against you. You can do that for half an hour, but then you get up, you meditate, and you make a change. And that's the thing. There are so many tools out there that can really transform your life.
I want to move on to some tools because I know that you've got some tools that you've used and things that have been helpful to you, because it's always about, you told your story and you've told some of the unfortunate things that have happened, but I always like to show that you've come through and how you've done that, because I think it's important. But there is just one thing that I'm curious about, and is that you mentioned anger being one of the emotions that you struggle with, that you avoid or dislike. And I wonder, sometimes anger can be a secondary emotion. It can be a reaction to an actual emotion. So what was you angry about?
Oh, just angry about that inner child inside of me. Was angry about things that I went through growing up, and angry about how my life had turned out, angry at people that had hurt me, the things that I've suppressed, because outwardly I want to be as loving and kind to everybody as possible. But inwardly, I was harboring all of these resentments and all of this, like, angry at life for the way it'd been, angry at things that happened. Yeah, just angry at life, really. So then you have to sort of really sit in that anger. And like you say, it is a secondary emotion. You go deeper, and it's usually tears or sadness or grief for the loss of, even though we've gained so much, I can't help but feel loss for a lot of my life, because I struggled with mental health for most of my life, issues and addictions and eating disorders, blah, 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 resentful for the loss of life. But then, like, and I have to sit in that, and you can't be all happy clappy all the time. But then as we transform it or transcend it, which we always can, it's taken me time, there's no quick fix. But then understanding the anger has offered me this lesson, understanding the tools, the resilience, understanding the empathy, understanding that now, honestly, I feel like a child living the life that I'd never lived, honestly. Like, everything excites me, and I look like, and, you know, I feel like I feel like a teenager, because my teens were horrible. And, you know, even like with the going on dates, I never really did that. So I'm like, in my 30s, I'm like, oh, going on a date. Like, it's all like exciting. You know, just going and living, doing silly things, that, you know, going to the beach and just feeling exhilarated by the sea and by the animals running around and all the things that I felt so blocked and so dead inside, if I'm being totally honest. I never had those joys. And now I have those joys.
It's like you're giving yourself the childhood experience that you never had or never will get the opportunity to have. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I wonder whether the anger. Sorry, I don't know why I do this, but
No, please go on.
No, but
Coach away.
no, it's not coaching. It's more of a curiosity, I suppose. Because
Okay.
here's the thing: when you tell yourself that you don't know everything, you allow yourself to be curious, which means I just ask constant questions,
I love that, though. That's so
like a kid.
beautiful. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I wonder whether you had a lifetime of feeling one of the most difficult primary emotions that you can experience. One of the most difficult ones that you can experience that most people will never allow themselves to experience because it comes with no action. And I think it sounds to me like you felt an overwhelming amount of helplessness your whole life, that you felt in a spot where you could not do anything to make things better. And there was a helplessness that comes with that. So what I did, in fact, was I felt like leaning into the addiction of alcohol was doing something. It felt productive. It felt like I had some sort of autonomy or control because I could avoid the emotion of helplessness. But then there's that moment that you described a little while back where you said you got to a point where you had to just face everything that had happened. And in that moment, it sounded like you found the antidote to helplessness, which was to surrender to it. Was to surrender to that helplessness and just say, I never had control over life. I was just kidding myself. And now I'm just going to ride that wave like a surfer. A surfer doesn't claim to control the wave, it just rides it. And what
I
happens,
love that.
happens. And it feels to me like you embrace that sense of helplessness. And then when you did that, you were like, oh, it's just a wave. I'll just ride it. I'll just surrender to this wave and I'll just ride it and see where it takes me. And I think that's that childhood curiosity that you talk about, that playfulness that you have with life now, is because you realize it's like, I'm just riding the wave, right?
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Do you know what, Johnny? You're so beautiful. You're such a perceptive soul. I think you're right, because as you were saying that, I felt a bit emotional, and I felt like, no, I've been seen. I think you're exactly right. And that would explain, you know, why I had so many addictions. It was just control, trying to control what I couldn't control. And it was that feeling of helplessness. And yeah, I think you're exactly right.
It's such a difficult emotion, one that I recognize within myself, the helplessness of not being able to stop my father from being violent. And then, but what we don't realize is that we take responsibility for that. Like, why couldn't I do that? It's the wrong question. When we ask ourselves why didn't I stop my father, is a different question to what stopped me. Because why means I can blame myself or I can blame him, and then I get caught in this cycle of blame and hate and anger. Whereas if I say what, I can name it. I can say, well, I was 6, I was 8. I was no match for a man. Like, you see the helplessness in it and you go, well, what could you have done? Nothing. Right. Okay. And it gives me the one thing that the only thing we can do about past events. We can't change them, but the one gift that we can give ourselves is acceptance. We can say, I accept that I was helpless. I accept that. But what can I do about it? Nothing. That's the whole point of helplessness. I accept it. And the greatest gift about acceptance is that people say to me all the time, oh, but I'm trying to accept. I'm working on acceptance. And say, well, there's your problem, because accepting doesn't come with any work. It's not doing work. You just have to surrender to it. And it doesn't mean you forgive anybody. It doesn't mean that you're happy about it in any way. You just accept it. It's something that happened to me. And what it does, for me anyway, is it gives me permission. It's like me giving permission for myself to finally let go. Just go, okay, this is, and I did that. I gave that stuff back to my dad one day. I remember looking in his eyes. I gave it one last effort, and he didn't do he did exactly what I thought he would do, in fact. And then I just looked at him and I just smiled and I said, okay, there you go. There is a problem between you and I, but it's not mine, it's yours. Take it easy.
I love that. You sweep to your side of the street and you just sweep it over.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, I love that, Johnny. You've just touched my heart, actually, because I've never looked at helplessness, actually. I don't think I've ever said that word. And I think that you're absolutely right. And it's beautiful because, you just got to hand it back. And I love it. I'm going to take that on.
It's definitely something that resonated within me listening to you. And again, it's just the respect I have for you is quite significant. So good for you, man. I mean, it's a journey, life, right? You never know what's going to happen, right?
It really is, isn't it? Gosh, it really is. But when you come out of those horrible times, that darkness, gosh, and the sun just shines a little bit, it's like it's blinding. It's amazing. And you just, the appreciation you have makes me feel a bit emotional, but the appreciation you have just to be okay is amazing, and that's beautiful. So like for anyone because we all struggle, don't we? And that's a beautiful thing in life, is that we can all connect, that we all hurt, my gosh, as human beings. But yet there's, I know this is such a generic thing to say, but it's so true. I love it. It's like when it's pouring and when it rains, the rainbows can only be created when the sun is shining and the rain comes down. And I love that. And it's such a duality, isn't it? And it's life, isn't it? And that's it.
Life is a contradiction.
It really is. And it's light and day, and in the darkness, the stars are shining and the light, and it's just, and that's it. It's that the who I am today is only because of what I've been through. And that's...
most people don't want to accept stuff like that.
No.
That's why they don't. They don't realise that they are an amazing person because of what happened.
Yeah.
It's hard because there's so many things about life you just, I wish that didn't happen. And you probably always will. But the truth of it is, you can't deny that there are things that have happened to me that I would never choose to have happen to me. And I wish they didn't in some ways because they caused me so much pain. However, I cannot escape the truth of it, which is if that didn't happen, then the thing that happened afterwards wouldn't happen. And I really love that happened. Oh,
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it?
It's impossible. So this is why we just don't play with it. We just try and ride the wave. We just try and ride the wave and see where it takes us. And sometimes it takes us somewhere good and sometimes it doesn't. And that's okay too, because we just get to accept that too. And don't get me wrong, I make it sound so easy. Oh, just accept it. And I could hear someone going, what a toxic, but what I'm saying is that there is an opportunity to accept it at some point. And some point, the lesson will get so significant where you don't have much choice. The only way forward is to do that. Yeah.
And there is from what we'll share in a minute, but there is tools and techniques that can really enhance that and can really get some of that. Well, in my experience and what's helped me a lot. But so when I was in my recovery journey and in my, my healing journey, really from literally my whole life, not just that voice thing that happened, but I just felt this, like I said to you earlier, this numb, I was in so much pain. It was numb almost. Like I felt nothing. So I didn't feel joy, but then the pain had stopped. So I was numb, empty, but I just, below that emptiness was just so much pain. And, you know, I tried everything. I tried every therapy, not everything, I'm a bit over exaggerating, but a lot of things. And then went into 12-step recovery, and then tried trauma therapy, and then did trauma retreats, all this stuff, because I understood that it was just, you know, I had a lot of trauma. And addiction is a secondary, it's just like anger, it's a secondary thing that, as we know, you know, from the core of what's really going on. And, you know, on my journey, I then fell into something called pranic healing therapy, which changed the game for me, like absolutely changed the game. I started doing something called twin hearts meditation, and it's had clinical studies on it. So over a period of time, it actually does help reduce anxieties and stress, and it improves the gamma wave within your brain, which helps with focus and clarity and intelligence. It helps boost the immune system. So it's amazing. But I just did it because I was helpless. So I was just, people told me to try this, and I was like, I'm just anything to just get me out of this pain. And so then I started getting treatments done and doing this twin hearts meditation. And honestly, hand on heart, my life began to transform, and I started to feel, and took a while, but I started to feel joy, and the addictive energy and that darkness and that self-hatred began to lower. And then I thought, okay, there's something in this. So then I started training to be a pranic therapist without meaning to. It's just because it was helping me. And I learned tools and techniques, very simple tools and techniques, that then started to really change my life. And it was the game changer. So now I'm a pranic therapist as well as a singer songwriter. And it's life-changing, and it's really incredible because it works on the energy system and the science of the energy system. So it can help we know scientifically that we are energy, right? We're atoms of energy vibrating, and it's now been recognized by scientists that we have a bioplasmic body, which is an aura. And so it makes sense that if thoughts and emotions are energy based, that they are going to be trapped within our system. And so there's a techniques that you can literally start taking that out of the system without having to talk about it all the time. Although talking about it's amazing as well, but it's really lovely with coaching and stuff. It works really well. And then you put new prana energy into the system, and then the system starts to hit the body. Your body will start to heal itself. It's amazing. It's really incredible. And I'm so passionate about it because it's changed my life.
I love it when the passion comes out. So is there like a tool that you can give people now that is just a simple tool that they can do themselves that will be part of that will help?
I'd say the best tool I could give them is to go and go and source. You can go on ukpranichealing.co.uk, and it has all the twin hearts meditations. They're free of charge, so you don't have to pay anything. All the twin hearts meditations that are done around the UK, and you can go to the meditations and you get taught, you have to do sort of a few minute mini sort of exercises just to cleanse yourself a bit, and then you do the meditation. And go and do the twin hearts meditation, or go online, and you can find them online as well. But it's really good to do them in a group. And if you can get that into your life bit by bit, because what this meditation does, although I'm not poo-pooing any other meditations because I'm not a meditation connoisseur, the word is, but I just know that I've done a few and I know that this is very powerful and it works. But what it does is it cleanses the system. So a beautiful soul said to me once that when we meditate, it's lovely because we feel peace, and there's so many out there that are amazing. So I'm not talking about any others because I don't know anything. But when we lie in a bath of dirty water, when we're still, the water stops. So we feel calm. But the minute we move in the bath, the dirty water it moves around, and it's the same with our bioplasmic field or our aura. So we carry a lot of us unhelpful emotions and thoughts all through our system, and we're not clearing them out. So we think 20 to 80,000 thoughts a day, 7 days a week, right? And apparently back in the 1950s, we'd consume one newspaper of information per day. It's something, now don't quote me on this, but it's something like 57 newspapers of content is consumed by us daily now, which you can imagine is filling our system. Where does all that stuff go in our system? So if we're not purifying ourselves. Just like if we're not cleaning our house, the house gets dirty. And with energy, you have to keep etherically clean as well. So with Twin Hearts, you learn how to purify the system. And then you do the meditation, which helps boost your system and helps really flush out a lot of those unhelpful thoughts and emotions. So my advice would be go to a Twin Hearts meditation, try it for yourself. There's facilitators all over the UK. I do one in Marlow. It's totally free of charge. If you want to donate, we have a non-profit charity that we have a charity box for, but that's it. Otherwise, just come along and experience it and see how it makes you feel at the end of it.
I've always had a draw to meditation and I've always found it difficult. So I think I will do that. That sounds incredible. So I'm going to try that.
Do, honestly, do. And the great thing is it's a guided meditation, so it's easy to focus. Because I was the same when I first started meditating. Honestly, 1 minute, I'd time myself 1 minute and I'd be like a wriggly ant and I just couldn't cope. I couldn't stand it. So then, but a guided one, you're just focusing on the Master Choa Koksui, who is the modern day founder of pranic healing therapy. But if you just listen to the voice, it's much easier, Johnny. It's only 20 minutes. It's easy. And it's
I'm going to try that. I'm definitely going to try that because that sounds amazing. Thank you. This has been a fabulous conversation. I could talk to you forever, but unfortunately we can't.
No, we can't.
So thank you so much. Today has just been, I've just had such a wonderful conversation and I'm really, really grateful for your energy, your efforts, your stories, some laughter. It's just been brilliant. So thank you so much for today.
And may I just say very quickly, because I know we're out of time, but thank you, Johnny, so much. Like, you really are such a special soul. And I mean that from the deepest part of my heart. And it's been such a joy to talk to you today and just your energy, just connecting with you and just your just absolute wisdom and kindness and empathy. And you're very, very talented at what you do. And it's been an absolute honor to chat to you today. So thank you so, so much.
No, thank you. And just before you go, is there anything you want to draw people's attention to? Is there any sort of social media websites that you want to direct people to? Any music, anything like that?
Well, if you know, I don't like the hard, steady stuff, but if you're intrigued in what I do and my music, then follow me on Instagram. Beth Morris Love is my handle on everything, actually. Beth Morris Love as my website. If you want to know more about pranic healing therapy or Twin Hearts meditations, go on www.ukpranichealing.co.uk and it has so much beautiful writing about what it is, how it works, and just have a little read.
And where can people find your music?
Oh, and you can find it on Spotify, just as Beth Morris, or YouTube, or any of the music platforms. I'm there.
Perfect. And follow, and
please,
download
give
and
us a
all
like.
Of those things. Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Would appreciate it.
So thank you everybody for listening today. The Slavery of Addiction is available on YouTube, so check that out. It's helping people that are struggling to understand addiction, whether it's you or someone you love. Hopefully it's got a little something in there for you. And really, thank you for listening to this wonderful conversation, and I will see you next week on another episode of John and Lawrence Podcast.